And we're live.
Hello and welcome to Comedy Cellar Nightly. I'm your host tonight, Harrison Greenbaum. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Harrison Comedy. You can also check me out on youtube.com/Harrison Greenbaum. So make sure you subscribe. I am joined by two incredible comedians and performers. Marcus Monroe, he's on Instagram at Marcus J. Monroe. That's also his TikTok. He's the winner of the Connick Jr. Award. Just got back from Wisconsin. And Myq Kaplan, his Twitter and Instagram is at Myq Kaplan. He spells it M-Y-Q Kaplan. And he's a brand new album out called AKA. Make sure you download it. Mike's one of the funniest people around. So find his album on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your albums. It is so good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
I also agree that it's great to see you, and just wanted to let everyone know that even if you don't think I'm funny tonight, the album was honed over the course of many years. So if you love me, then it's the perfect album for you, and if you don't love me, then it's the perfect album for me. So.
And what does the title mean? Is the AKA a reference to a joke on the album?
Great question, and thank you. I'm sorry this is going to take an hour to tell you, but...
yeah, just do the album. Can you just do that? Just a little taste.
Sincerely, I was touring the Hour of Comedy for several years under the name All Killing Aside, and that name was because the album was mainly about the main themes of love, compassion, and not murdering. And so it made a lot of sense. It's what I believe. There are many jokes on the topics. And then the album came out May 8th, right in the middle so far of the pandemic, where there is suffering and death and uncertainty. And my producer, my album producer, and also my mom, my me producer, were both like, is it good to have killing in the side? Like, I don't know if you can hear those sirens. They're coming for me to finish up right now. But yeah, so we decided to call it AKA for several reasons, one of which is that it's short for All Killing Aside, or All Kidding Aside for my mom. She enjoyed just calling it that. It's also known as, which is now what the new album's title is. So there's all these layers, and there's layers in the material. Somebody called it hilarious. That was me. And that's layered right into hilarious. It's a palindrome. There's a lot of things about it. Like, look, it's honestly like my favorite album that I've ever made. It's the best comedy that I've done. And it was initially kind of unfortunate that the pandemic is the unfortunate thing. The name of the album is a very close second. Those are my two main concerns these days: is how is everybody doing, and does everybody understand my album title?
That's right. And also, I think, that makes sense, but I think you also can't say the album's going viral anymore, can you?
Oh, Harrison, there's people. Everything these days, I'm glad that we are addressing what's happening in the world as much as we can, even in simple things like, how are you? Like, when people ask me, how are you? There's a long thought process and answer, because just saying so far so good that's like a privilege to be able to feel that I'm like, oh, I'm even glad that I'm talking to a person who even cares enough to ask the question in a way that they probably don't want me to answer this long about, you know?
No, that's fair. And Marcus, I've been keeping on your Instagram. And
thanks, man. You're the one.
That's me. Yeah. Have you had any Instagram stalkers, by the way? But more importantly, you were in Wisconsin and you actually got to perform in a comedy club.
I did a live
club. I'm desperate to hear what that was like.
It was, first of all, it was great. So I was featuring for TJ Miller in Appleton, Wisconsin. The whole story of how that came about was pretty insane. I mean, I've known TJ. We've done shows together on and off for 10 years. Great guy. Super, super funny. But just to be in the club again with over 100 people in the club at once was insane. Now, I am pretty paranoid.
Were there any safety procedures? Because the number 100 scares me.
It is terrifying. And I am so, I fly with a mask on and a face shield. I wear gloves. I spray everything. I wipe everything down. So I'm pretty paranoid about it, living in New York, seeing how truly bad it can be, having friends and family affected by COVID. It's a very serious thing. But I wanted to get out and play a show. So I put on all the PPE I own, and I went to Appleton, Wisconsin, which Wisconsin, they're not known for being the safest state, they just kind of make their own rules up over there. And I think it's fine. So the club was doing a great job of social distancing all the tables, taking temperatures. Some people, all the workers there had masks on. Some people in the audience were wearing the masks. I had a mask on up until I stepped foot on stage, took off the mask, had my own mic, plugged my mic in, never even shook the host hand, never touched anybody. So I was pretty careful. At the end of the show, I left right away, didn't see the audience at all. It was weird, but it felt so good to be back on stage, even if it was for like 15 to 20 minutes a night. It still was so fun.
Yeah, and by the way, popping in, our final panelist, Jim David. You can follow him at Comic Jim David on Twitter. Did you coordinate with Marcus? How are you guys wearing the same shirts?
Oh, hi, Marcus.
Hey, Jim.
I think we didn't coordinate, but it's actually quite interesting. That's
Is yours
wild.
homemade?
Was the reason you were late the Twitch stream that you were narrating with that headset?
No, the reason I was late is because I had to do this on my phone because Zoom doesn't work on my computer for some reason. Every time I try to go in, I mean, of all the times for Zoom to fuck up on my computer, right?
Yeah.
It's now, right? Hi, Mike.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
But I can see you guys all fine. Yeah, can you hear me and everything?
By the way,
Oh, yeah.
The first time I ever met you, I believe it was at Comics Comedy Club. Rest in peace. Is no longer here. Do you remember the piece of advice you gave me? You gave me a piece of advice that to this day remains very important.
Are you serious? You actually remembered that?
The advice was you looked at me for like a second and you said, you need to iron your shirt. And from that point forward, I was so mortified. I've never not ironed my shirt before a gig.
Gay. That's it. To this day, I do not go on stage without an iron shirt. I do not. It's like all I've got is this is all we have. You know what I mean? So to distract from this, which I've never liked, I always wear some crazy shirt, and it's always got to be ironed.
Jim,
right?
can I ask you a question? Have you thought about?
Go ahead.
Now, this is going to sound like a serious question, but I assure you it is only going to be a joke, but it's going to sound very serious. Have you thought about pitching a show where you basically maybe help people? It's a competition where they have to come up with an outfit, and each outfit has to have like one common element into it. And basically all the ingredients of their fashion get put on display, and you pick the winner, and the show is called The Ironed Shirt. How about that?
I have never thought about that ever. I've never thought about that, but that's the kind of show you need to give to some like effeminate guy in his 30s, like Christian Serrano or somebody,
All right.
I just don't think that this is very good. That way it would sell.
I thought you were going to suggest, you were going to be like, you know what, that advice was good. But what if there was 4 other gay guys and they didn't just give fashion advice, but they also help with lifestyle, food, and other areas.
Oh,
and it's
brother.
sort of a queer perspective, a queer eye, if you will.
Listen, I'm like the least fashionable gay person you're ever going to meet. It's like clothes to me are what you wear so you won't be naked. That's it. My husband dresses like a lesbian from Maine. He wears all these LL Bean shirts that are plaid. He's got a plaid shirt on right now.
Let's see it. Let's see him.
How are you guys holding? Hey,
I love that you just said I have
guys?
terrible fashion sense while wearing the exact same shirt as another one of the panelists. That was
Yeah, buddy.
Actually, no, I like this shirt. I think it's cool. I got it at some store in
tie-dyed this shirt
Florida.
myself,
I can't
so I'm
remember
proud
where.
of it.
You did. Where are
Yeah,
you guys? Harrison, you're in New York, right?
I'm in Manhattan. Yep.
Where are you?
Harrison
Where
and
are
I
you,
are
Mike?
just a few blocks away.
I am I'm in Brooklyn, and I know this is too late for this joke to happen, but I now have the floor, and I'm gonna get it out. I like the idea of the lesbian from Maine wearing LL Bean, which stands for, I don't know if you guys know that LL Bean stands for lesbian.
Lesbian. That's funny. My husband and I have a second home on Fire Island.
Ah.
All right. Which we've had for 15 years. This is our 15th summer out here. But this is the first time that we've been here for 2 months, And tonight I went to a cocktail hour, and there was this drag queen going around asking everybody for their best drag name. And some of them were like Dinah Cancer, right?
Sure.
Good one.
Bang Bang Ladesh.
Oh, yes.
Bertha Venation. I just thought, you can't write that shit.
I honestly, I feel like I might be able to write that shit. And so I think if comedy doesn't work out entirely, I think I could be a drag queen other than the dressing up part. But I think I could really make the name happen.
Harrison, have you ever done drag in your life?
You know what? This quarantine, I am very proud. I have watched every episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, 12 years worth of RuPaul's Drag Race in basically one sitting. I do have painted toenails. That's the closest I have to drag right now.
Ah.
Oh my God.
Did you paint them or did somebody else paint them?
Oh my God.
I'm trying to incorporate.
I'm not that into it. I'm not that into it. I've never really done it. I mean, I've done.
What was your name when you did it? What was your name?
Myrtle Beach.
Marcus, if you were a drag queen, what would your drag name be?
Oh, geez. I never thought about it. Does it have to have like a location involved? All these Myrtle Beaches?
It's just a pun, like a play on words. You know what I mean?
Oh man, I don't know. What would you call me, Harrison?
Lucille Balls.
Lucille Balls.
As you juggle.
That's great. I love it. That's it. I went to high school with a guy who was on the RuPaul's Drag Race this season, and I think he goes by the name Jackie Cox.
Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie was that season just wrapped. Jackie's great.
Yeah, so him and I were in like plays and musicals in high school together. I'm like, I wonder if I could sell the VHS tapes of us in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
That's a scream. I live in Manhattan, but my neighborhood, we came out, I was in Manhattan from March 15th that was my last job at the end of March 15th to May 19th. And the whole time my neighborhood, which is Union Square, was like The Walking Dead. It was just sketchy characters hanging around the park, and you'd go outside and there's a guy just sitting on the street screaming at the top of his lungs. And I was like, get me the fuck out of here, And so I'm out here now. I'm out at the beach now. So that's really nice. But still people are wearing masks, except when they're on the beach, they're not wearing masks. But when they're walking around town, they're wearing masks.
I think I saw it might have been your Facebook. But there were some crazy Fire Island parties where social distancing was not being maintained. That died down a little bit?
That was the 4th of July weekend, and that made national news. There were a bunch of parties that got out of hand.
Or like national nudes, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this place is not meant for social distancing. This is not.
If only like when people were talking about Fire Island, it was like, if only that group of people had experience with a virus that spread and killed people. If only they had that experience to draw from.
Because I lived through that shit, Harrison. I lived through that. And back then in the late 80s, early 90s, there were a lot of guys that were like, I'm not going to get it. And they're dead. And so but this is worse. This is worse because you couldn't get HIV from talking to somebody.
Right.
You can get this. I mean, who knows how you can get this virus? And I watched Trump's return to the coronavirus press conference today, and it was the same shit. It was the exact same shit. It's like, nobody's ever done more than we've done. We're gonna have some things coming out that nobody's ever thought of. I know what it is. You've never thought of it, Trump. So if he's never thought of it, nobody's ever thought of it. Right.
Well, let me offer in defense of that statement, in the letter of the law, not in the spirit of the law, only for comedic purposes. Like, this administration has done more than any other administration has done to fend off the coronavirus. No other administration has dealt with coronavirus as well.
Very true.
That's right. You are absolutely correct.
Obama didn't do anything.
Yeah,
not a single thing.
Not only that, he got
zero
rid of the
testing
test
for corona. Zero tests.
Oh, that's what Trump actually said,
I know.
that he did zero testing.
I mean, also, what did Obama do other than put in place and maintain a pandemic alert team? Like, that's the only thing he did. And
and then when the Trump was asked about that, he said, "I don't know anything about that." How can you not know?
That's his thing. That's his go-to.
well, I mean, I'm also even heartened that he might say he doesn't know something, because I feel like his go-to is to say, I know things about everything that you're talking about, even if I'd like to, I mean, I take my heartening in the I'm squeezing heartening from a stone, you know? I'm like, oh, he said he doesn't know something. That's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Also, I definitely want to get back to the Donald Trump talk, but what is the spooky thing happening behind you?
I don't want to talk about
Mike?
Trump.
There's a darkness to your left, and I don't know what I'm looking at.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, this is just the out of doors. I'm out in back of my home. I can show you. This is let's see. I don't know if you can see much because it's the night. It's the nighttime.
What? I'm doing comedy wrong because at least two of you can afford a backyard, and I do not know how that's possible.
I don't have a backyard. I have a front porch.
Mm-hmm.
I have a front porch.
You're also on Fire Island in your second home.
In your second home.
So you're doing okay, Jim.
The whole city is your backyard. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm very grateful that whatever we've done, I've been able to, afford this place. So it's really great.
I also
Jim, did you know that?
Because I've been.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did I know what, Marcus?
I was gonna say, do you remember when Harrison remembered when you were at Comics and you told him to iron his shirt? But I was gonna ask you if you remember when we first met.
Ooh.
Nope.
That's a rude question, Marcus.
Is it a rude question?
No, I don't remember. I don't
mean it to be rude. We worked together on a Royal Caribbean ship, maybe 10 or 12 years ago.
That's right. But you didn't have that hair, did you? Did you?
No, I was like this.
It was different hair.
It was short and spiky, perhaps.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
I know for sure, Marcus.
We did.
I intend no rudeness to you by implying that you were rude to Jim when neither of you think so. One time I was doing a show in DC at maybe like the Arlington Draft House, and somebody afterwards came up to me and they were like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," and they're like, like, remember me? And I was like,
"Oh,
I don't remember you. Would you? I'm so sorry. Would you be so kind as to remind me how we know each other?" And they're like, "Come on, you know." And I was like, I just never learned who they were because they wouldn't tell me.
Yeah, that I would not do. That is a dick move, as we say.
I think that does happen though, where somebody comes up to you and is like, "Remember that show?" And you're like, "You're gonna have to be more specific."
I love like if I'm in a situation where I know we've all like met a lot of people, and we've been on both sides of this. You meet somebody forgets you forget somebody. It's a thing that happens. When you meet a lot of people, like it's not a personal thing. It's about our minds more than anybody else's. And so whenever I love when people meet me and they're like, "Hey, I'm this person from this place," and I'll be like, "I know who you are, my long lost brother," or whatever. Whatever the joke is, mom, dad, etc. Non-binary parent. But so I try to do that also. And I'd much rather have people be like, "I know who you are, weirdo," than to have people be like, "I don't know who you are, weirdo."
Yeah, I just assume I know that person. So anytime I see somebody, I'm just like, "Nice to see you again." Because I think it's more awkward to be like, "Nice to meet you," and then they're like, "We've met before." Then you'd be like, "Nice to meet you again," and they're like, "We've never met." I feel like that's the preferable situation.
You know what? The best thing that I've done is, this is a trick I used to do when I first moved to New York, and I go to UCB and the Cellar and all these comedy clubs. I want to meet comics.
Oh, you've been to a lot of comedy clubs. Fine.
And one of them still exists.
Right. Exactly. I would pretend if I saw a celebrity or a famous comedian that I already had known them, And I just like, oh my gosh, hey, and I'd come up with a place that they were probably at and say, oh, I was there. Do you remember that? And 9 out of 10 times they're just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Good to see you again. And it really kind of took away that awkwardness. But then again, our relationship is built on lies, which I'm not a fan of. But it is a good way to get in the door.
Marcus.
I mean, I don't recommend doing that, but yes.
Oh yeah, I think Jim was too nice to say, but look, you made him go away. So
Shit.
One time I was at like a Barnes & Noble in the city somewhere, and I was walking and a guy was like seated and he was like, hey, and I was like, he's like, Myq Kaplan. I was like, hey, and he's like, I'm a comedian. We've met and we did a show, and I was like, oh, of course, great to see you again. And then I got home and there was a message from another comedian who was like, hey man, my friend saw you at Barnes & Noble, forgot that he'd never met you and that he'd only seen you do comedy, and wanted me to let you know that he was sorry for making you feel weird.
That's really funny.
You know that you would have felt just as good if that email didn't come through.
Oh, either way. I mean, I'm happy to have more information. Why not? Like, I got the first experience. Oh, and it felt good to feel like. It feels good to remember someone when you have met them and to not remember them when you haven't. Like, there's some comedians that I know, you probably have this thing too, like you've done enough like shows and things online and TV that you can know someone and they can know you, and you have never met. You can know what they believe and what their life is like. Maybe you've listened to them on podcasts or they've listened to you on podcasts. And like, you know, I feel like when I first met Greg Warren, I was probably like, have we met before? And he's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, we're just like, well, we know each other now and we didn't at one point.
Yeah, that's very true, especially within the last like 2 to 3 years. That's definitely a thing.
It's true. I don't remember, Marcus, where you and I first met or how. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Well, I had seen you at a Barnes & Noble, and I was like, hey, man.
Marcus.
And
that's from the story that I told about a different person.
That I had Harrison email you. No, what? You and I first met in person, I think it was to do my podcast. And then the funny thing is, the three of us got together and did Mike's podcast. Do you remember that?
And who's the third person?
Harrison.
Oh, really? We all?
Yes.
Is this true?
We the three of us got together and did a podcast together. And
it was my podcast. Is that what you're saying?
So, yeah. Do you remember this, Harrison? Or is it just me?
I mean, I can't tell if you're doing the bits that the way this is like a UCB strategy.
No. This is true. Because Myq, I came over to your apartment in Brooklyn, up the stairs. We did
Harrison, Marcus, you can stop talking now. Here's the funniest thing. So my podcast used to have a podcast called Hang Out With Me. And so I just searched for Myq Kaplan, Marcus Monroe, Harrison. And what pops up is Myq hangs out with Marcus Monroe and Harrison Greenbaum. And then when I click on it, it says page not found. So
it did happen.
It did happen, but the episode doesn't seem like it exists anymore.
Yeah, well, it was at
I think it was with the Keith and the
girl studio.
Yes, that's it.
That's right.
And Harrison, you and I had lunch afterwards at some Chinese spot.
Yes, I do remember that now.
Welcome back, Jim.
Jim, you just
thank you.
Weird, fun thing.
I'm sorry. I tried to. What I was trying to do was I realized I could put my earbuds in, and I was trying to get rid of these. And the minute I took it down, everything went kaplooey. So it all fell down. This is a very strange world we're living in right now, where we're all communicating like this, and it's like we should be in a bar together. We should be. I can't.
Have you done? Marcus was telling us about the show we did in Wisconsin at a comedy club. Have you done anything close to live performing since this whole thing started?
No, nothing. No, nothing. I don't want to. I really don't want to. I mean, I don't want to perform in the park where people are gathered about. I might go out and do it like at Governor's. They're doing it out at Governor's with separate, with spaced out tables, or Stress Factory. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take some time off because, it's like I work my tail off. I'm usually gone 30 weeks a year. And I worked like hell, and like from January 1st to March 15th, I was gone. How many weeks is that? I don't know. I was gone about 8 of those 10 weeks.
Is this
You
the
know,
longest vacation
so-
you've had in your whole career?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's like it's given me a it's interesting. It's given me a sort of an idea of what retirement might look like, you know, and I'm not wild about it. I'm not wild.
Jim, what's a thing that you have done that you have enjoyed that you think you wouldn't have done otherwise?
Oh, I've turned into Julia Child.
Same.
I have made I've made things like a macadamia nut crusted mahi with a Kahlua lime and ginger sauce. Tonight I
My
made
nipples are hard. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, your nips. That will make your nipples hard.
Yes.
I've made vegan things like a quinoa and kale bowl with kidney beans and beets and butternut squash and a miso tahini dressing, shit like that.
Amazing.
You know, yeah. Tonight I made a chicken stew, and when I realized it was 8:30, I went, "Oh fuck, I've got to go on the Comedy Cellar." But you know, so I've been cooking a lot, and also I've been writing a script. I'm almost done. I've been writing a screenplay that I've been working on for a long time, and I'm almost done with it. I'm going to finish the first draft of it by the end of quarantine. Absolutely.
Oh, good for you,
It's gonna
man.
be
So
done.
you're working. You're still working. You're just not on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing. I write all the time. I wrote a novel, and that came out, and it did okay, and it made me some money. And so I thought, well, maybe I could write a movie. And so I'm writing a movie, and you know, it's about. We'll see. I mean, you know, the thing is now is that when I first started out, I'm older than any of you guys, and when I started comedy, and what year did you start, Myq, in comedy?
2000. I performed on a comedy stage in 1999, but I say I started in 2002.
Okay, well, I started in 1986.
That's different.
And yeah,
That was the year I was
exactly.
born.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you serious? Are you serious? It was really the year you were born.
I was born
Go
in 1986.
fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Seriously,
It's a
go
year-old
fuck
based
yourself.
on the fact that your phone is in vertical.
Yeah. Well, that if I go horizontal, then you guys are, you know.
Oh, there you
it
go.
works.
Yeah.
cool.
There you go.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
All right.
Even better.
Yeah, that works. Let me. I've got this fucking. There we go. All right. But
that's
when
better.
I started comedy in '86, and I started making my living at it in '87.
Wow.
Because back then that was the comedy boom, and there was a comedy night in every bar and every Chuck E. Cheese. And because I had a theatrical background, you know, I was in theater, I was very comfortable on stage. So I was good enough to be an MC. You know what I mean? So I got hired by you remember Tony Camacho? Are you old enough to remember Tony Camacho? Tony was the first guy who booked me on the road. He saw me at Dangerfields and booked me on the road. And I have a Dangerfield story. This is one of my favorite stories because my comedy idols growing up when I was young were Jonathan Winters, Lily Tomlin, Phyllis Diller, and Rodney Dangerfield. And one night I was at Dangerfields. I've been doing comedy about 5 or 6 years, I guess. And it was one of those rare nights at Dangerfields when the crowd was fabulous and I was cooking. You know, it was great. It was like a killer set. And then I walked out into the lobby and there was Rod. There, and he comes up to me and goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Jim David." And he goes, "Oh, you're very funny. I seen you in there getting big laughs." And that's all he said.
Wow.
Did he adjust his tie? Anytime I picture him, I just always want him adjusting his tie.
He didn't have a tie on. I remember distinctly. He had like a short sleeved shirt that was unbuttoned to about here. You know what I mean? So I remember that like it was yesterday. I seen you in there getting big laughs. I mean, that's all a young comic needs to hear.
That's
You know what I mean?
beautiful. When I
Was
was
there any big time comics that gave you a compliment that was like particularly meaningful?
Robin Williams. I walked off the stage at Comedy Cellar and Williams was going up after me. And he said to me, I can't follow that.
Ah,
That's amazing.
Yeah,
No,
that was
That's
great.
awesome.
his birthday today.
That was great. Oh, yes, it is. May he rest in peace. Yeah. Robin Williams and I we were sitting at the table in the Cellar one night, and and we started doing dueling Lawrence Welk imitations. Do you all know who Lawrence Welk was?
Oh yes.
Thank you. Those were our champagne virgins, the Nennan sisters, crossing their legs and singing, no, they can't take that away from me. Right? But we sat here doing dueling Lawrence Welk, and all the other comics were like, it was really funny. It was a great moment. It was a great moment, because it was like, that's the thing, is that because of the business we're in, we're going to run into these guys one way or the other,
It's really special. I was just telling somebody earlier today. I was being somebody is doing a piece on like comedy people performing on the road, like for a travel magazine. They're like, remember when this was a thing? I don't know, but I was reminded of a story like when I started out in Boston, and at the Comedy Connection, I was like, sometimes you get to open for the bigger people that came into town, and so I was opening for Larry Miller. And I just remember he was just so, like, sometimes you have you don't even know as an opener if you're like welcome in the green room. You're just like, I think I'm supposed to be able to cram in here. But if the headliner's there with like a bunch of people, you're like, you don't know. But he was just so welcoming and warm and like, a movie star and a millionaire, I assume. And he's just like, isn't it great that we all get to do this? That we all just get to be brothers in comedy together? Like you and me, the same. And I was like, but I'm just a tiny nothing and you're a massive somebody. And he's like, the same.
You know what's crazy is I have a Larry Miller story, and he said the same thing to me.
That's he's doing material.
Me too. He said the same fucking thing.
Well, I guess
actually, who was the first famous person that you opened for?
Well, that's a good question.
Oh, I remember. I think I know who it was, only because when I was in college, John Panette came to speak at our school, because I started the Harvard College Stand-Up Comic Society. So Harvard College Sucks was the acronym. And we would just give awards to people. We'd be like, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Harvard Stand-Up Comic Society, Harvard Sucks. So John Panette came to speak, and he knew that I was interested in doing stand-up, and I've been doing a lot of stand-up. And he gave me his cell phone number, and he said, when you're in New York and you're ready, text me and you can open for me. Wow. And I moved to New York a year later, and I worked a bunch of clubs, and I saw that he was going to be at Caroline's. It was about a year and a half into living in the city. And I texted him, and I opened for him 2 of the nights out of that weekend at Caroline. So Panette, and that's when I started working regularly at that club. So John was like instrumental in that.
Oh, wow.
Really, yeah.
Does it count if you are just on the same show as people, or do you have to like officially open for them? Because
sure, you can be on the same.
My first show in New York, my first comedy show in New York, was at Comics on 14th Street, and it was with Kurt Braunhaler and Kristen Schaal, with David Cross, Michael Ian Black, and Michael Showalter, and me. And I had no idea about I had no business being on that bill, but it was a really fun show.
I mean, I feel like the Cellar is constantly that. Like that's been the crazy thing. We're on Comedy Cellar nightly, so it makes sense to talk about. But sometimes you sit at that table in the back, and the people that it's like kind of. I remember sitting down. It was just me at the table, and then all of a sudden, Dave Chappelle sat down, and it was Ferguson had just happened, and he wanted to talk to me about it because he wanted to talk to somebody, and we spoke for an hour about Ferguson, and it was insane. I was like, it was an out of body experience where I was like, I cannot believe that this is happening right now.
I was the headliner at a club in Washington, D.C., and Dave Chappelle opened for me when he was like 17. He was like 17 years old.
What a fantastic thing to get to. Like you're asking, hey, who's like the biggest person you opened for early on when you were opening? And now we're like, who's the biggest person who opened for you early on?
Wanda Sykes Wanda Sykes opened for me in Baltimore one time. Some club, I don't remember what. I think she was the MC. She was the MC, and Chappelle. I believe that Chappelle was the MC. He was a teenager, in Washington D.C. Yeah, but the first person I opened for was Harry Connick Jr. in Philadelphia, and he's like 22, and I opened for him, and the first night I bombed because the lights went down and everybody applauded, and then they said, "Please welcome Jim David." And I walked out and they're like, "What the fuck? Who is this person?" And so I started doing the show, and one of my lines, I was struggling all through, it just wasn't working because they didn't know what the fuck I was doing there. And at one of my lines was, the joke was, in the joke was, shut up, just shut up. Somebody in the audience yelled out, "Why don't you?"
Ha.
And then I had 2 more nights with Harry Connick, and I went up to the sound guys the next night, and I had written them the whole "Good evening and welcome to Harry Connick Jr. Harry will be out in just a few minutes, but to get started, let's welcome Harry's special guest." Right? Then I killed, and then after that night, Harry invited me into the dressing room, and he said, "Man, that's really cool. They come to see me, they're out there digging you. I opened for Grover Washington, they booed me. I opened for Wynton Marsalis, they booed me. But they're seeing you. There's two of the finest pieces of white trash they're ever going to see." I just thought that was great. So he was the first person. I can't remember the first comic that speaking of the Comedy Connection, Mike, I performed at the Comedy Connection at Faneuil Hall. And I was the middle for Margaret Cho. And that was back before I started headlining. I was still a feature, and Margaret was the headliner. And after the first night, she tried to get me fired because she thought that she couldn't follow me or didn't like me, and they didn't fire me. But she tried to get me fired.
You are difficult to follow, as evidenced by Margaret Cho and Robin Williams. So, 2 points. We only need 1 more for a pattern. And one time I was opening for Casey and the Sunshine Band.
No, you're
nice.
How did that happen?
I'll explain as much as I can. It was also through the Comedy Connection, just like so. The first comedian I opened for at the Comedy Connection was Mike Birbiglia, and so then I opened for a few other folks there, and it was like such a to be in there, to be one of the people that they hired regularly, like especially in Boston, like there's not as many comedians as New York, so they would like cycle through. But then I think I had moved to New York, and they called me and they're like, "Do you want to come back to open for Casey and the Sunshine Band at the Cape Cod Melody Tent?"
God, it's nightmare.
And
Nightmare.
I have opened for other comedians there. It's like 2,000 seats and in the round, and it was like 7 p.m. in the summer, so it was daytime. It was not ideal for comedy, but they had all the band's like gear on the stage, so like the only thing that would fit as an opening act would be a tiny comedian. No other musicians they wouldn't let anybody use their instruments.
Right.
And so I was supposed. It's weird that they even want an opening act.
The audience? What's the demo that you're performing for?
I mean, the age.
It's got to be soccer moms and gay guys. That's what it is.
Yeah. My people, of course, and so I'm out there. I go on at 7, and I'm supposed to do 25 to 30 minutes. And then there's an intermission, and then the band comes on at 8. So them getting me off stage sooner doesn't even get the band on sooner. So I'm trying to explain this to them in between jokes, in between them booing, in between them saying, "Get down tonight," requesting either the song or an action from me. And I'm just spinning around. The stage is rotating, starting a joke to what, like, I sincerely offered them a deal. I told them, I'm like, I've been paid, I think, $400 to get yelled at for this 25 to 30 minutes. But in order to get paid, I must do at least 25 minutes. So I'll make you a deal. If you stop yelling at me, I will only do 25 minutes. But if you keep yelling at me, then I'll do the full 30 minutes. And wouldn't you know, they did not accept my deal. So.
Wait, did you say the stage was on a turntable?
It was, like theater in the round.
Oh, like an amphitheater. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. You're on a thrust or something.
Yeah, it was only.
I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like when I opened, I was at the Westbury Music Fair.
That thing
on
rotates.
Long Island. Yeah, and that was in the round. And I opened for Cyndi Lauper and Winona Judd.
Wow.
And I did okay for their crowds. It was fine because I made sure that the Harry Connick experience told me, make sure that you're properly introduced. So, because the openers never advertise, So I did okay, but Winona pulled me into her prayer circle backstage. Oh, no. I held hands with like her bass player and her sound guy when we were all in the circles and we were praying. Yeah. But I have the ultimate open for story. So the reason that I started doing stand-up in 1986 was because I saw Roseanne Barr's first set on The Tonight Show. And that was when she was doing her that was her first, nobody had ever heard of her. And just the way that she did it, I'm a domestic goddess. My husband said, I need more space. So I locked him outside. It's like those kind of jokes. And I had been wondering how to be a comedian because I thought I'm not a character. I don't know who I can be. And then when I saw Roseanne, I went, oh, I can be me. I can go up there and be like a to the 10th power version of Jim David, right? So I started doing comedy about my family and like she did. And then, I started working. Okay, so about 2 years later, I run into her at Catch a Rising Star. This is like 1988 or 9. And when she was doing her show, and I went up to her and I said, excuse me, Roseanne, I just wanted to know, you were the reason I started doing stand-up because I saw your act and it hit a nerve with me. And she goes, oh yeah, thanks. And that was it.
Marcus, you toured around with some boy band people, right?
Yeah,
Wait a minute, I'm not finished.
Oh, sorry. I thought, oh, wow.
No, let me finish this. Fast forward to 25 years later. 25 years later, I'm on a cruise with Roseanne. She's the headliner, and I opened for her, all right? Because I was there that week to do regular shows, right, on the ship. And then she was the headliner, but I went out and opened for her. Then, after she did her show, I saw her backstage, and I said, excuse me, Roseanne, you won't remember me, but about 25 years ago, I came up and said to you that you were the reason I started doing stand-up comedy. And she goes, oh, yeah, that was a long time ago. So are you still doing it?
That's great.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Now, on the show, had she shaken your hand or had she?
No. I walked off stage, and then the voice of God introduced her. I didn't introduce
her. So she had no idea that you were even.
Oh my God.
No, she didn't know what was going on out there because they showed a video. She had a compilation video of her stuff before her set. You know what I mean? So they didn't.
So funny.
So I never saw her backstage, and then I saw her afterwards, and she goes, "Oh yeah, you still doing it?" And I was like, "I just opened for you, bitch."
I hope that in 25 years you get to meet her again and tell her about that story.
I somehow don't think that's going to happen. What were you asking, Marcus?
I was saying, Marcus, because you've had a ton of stories about opening for interesting people. I know there's been some boy banders for sure.
Yeah, I did some shows with Hanson, like in 2004. I don't know if I should be talking about this.
Who booked that?
Hanson.
Who booked that?
Did you have that hair back then? Because you would have fit right in.
Yeah, my hair was kind of long. Like in high school, I kind of had long. Like it was probably not this long. I need to get it cut, obviously, but.
Or was it like in Home Alone where they accidentally count the neighbor kid when they're counting the kids on the way to the airport? And they're like, all right, there's one Hanson brother, and here we go. And they left the other Hanson home alone.
Yeah, well, like if you know, like for some reason, the music I like and listen to hasn't changed since high school. So like I'm still listening to like the All American Rejects, to Simple Plan, to Dashboard Confessionals, NSYNC. Like all pop music from 2003 is like all I ever really Rent, the musical Rent, listening to that a bunch. It's an issue, but the thing is, like, I become infatuated with these pop stars or with these boy bands, so I try to work my way into their life as much as possible. And I don't know, it's harmless. I'm not creepy. Like, I'm married to a woman. Everything is like on the up and up. I am cool. Like, I think I'm pretty chill. But 3 years ago, I saw that Lance Bass from NSYNC was having the Lance Bass and Friends cruise. And my wife and I were driving around Utah. I was doing a college tour, saw him tweet about this. And I pulled over, did like 20 minutes of investigating who was promoting this cruise, who was booking it. And then within 2 hours, I was booked on the cruise. And I don't know Lance. I don't know anything, but now we're buddies. It's crazy. So I went on the cruise.
That's some serious obsession.
No, Jim, I know. I think, yeah, I would agree.
Marcus,
pretty serious.
Are you coming to us from a phone?
Yeah.
Is there any chance that we could see your bathroom? Because I know Mike and Jim might not have seen your bathroom.
I can try. It might break up.
Okay.
I might lose you, but I'll try and take you down there.
All right.
All right. I got to warn my wife that I'm coming in.
We're now getting
Hey, Gina.
Exciting.
I'm coming in, but I'm going to cover the camera so you're not seen. Don't worry. You're not going to be seen. Okay.
Are we supposed to show our bathrooms now, Harrison?
Oh, no, you have to see Marcus's bathroom. It's pretty incredible.
One at a time, I guess.
I don't know. Does your bathroom have a theme, Jim?
It does have a theme, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
This is the door, which is the funniest part, I think, because it's like 5 dudes, boy band bathroom. Come on in. Come on in.
You gotta be kidding.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Look.
This is serious.
Now, you said that you're friends with Lance Bass now?
Yeah.
Has he used this bathroom?
He's seen this. He hasn't used it, but I do have what I'm doing, which I think is kind of funny, is anyone who comes over now, I'm taking their photo in the bathroom, and then I'm gonna put like a little scrapbook together. But he's seen it. Lance Bass has seen it. Joey Fatone has seen it. He's a big fan of the bathroom, not of mine. I mean, it could be of mine. I don't know. But yeah, it's a good peek. Come on in.
Wow.
Jim, I don't know if he can live up to
Almighty.
bathroom, but what is the theme of your bathroom?
No, it's not that much. It's just that this place that we live out here on the island, we've had for 15 years. And when we moved in, the bathroom was a total dump. But somebody gave us some towels. And so when I redecorated it, I redecorated with the colors of those 2 towels. So the tiles are those colors and the everything, you know what I mean? So it's not that much. It's not worth getting up to go see.
Would you consider a Roseanne themed bathroom?
No. I do have Marilyn Monroe. Advertising Luster Cream shampoo on the wall of my bathroom out here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do have that. And I've got photographs that I've taken over the years, and this is a pretty cool place. Yeah.
Do you have a wig on a mannequin behind you?
A wig on a mannequin. It's a lamp.
That's a lamp. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a
it's
lamp.
Really
See?
sorry.
You see that's a lamp.
I like that. One suggestion that Marcus should consider drag, and now he's seeing wigs everywhere.
I can't help it, guys. I'm obsessed with this idea. Lucille Balls, guys, watch out. I'm gonna get that domain name tonight.
Balls. Lucille Balls. That's a great drag name. That's very funny.
I wonder if it's been done before. I don't know.
Mike, is there anything in your apartment that is there anything that you have to hide when people come over?
So I live with my girlfriend, and she likes when a place is clean and minimal. And so we strive to have it that way. So our bathroom theme is like everything is hidden, just nothing. There's nothingness, just blank space, like that scene in The Matrix where it's just like you can imagine it to be anything, and a candle. But my natural inclination for cleaning and a place is if I have company coming over, I just want to neaten up just enough that when they get there, I can say, sorry about the clutter. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing that needs hiding per se, though, because of my girlfriend is better at getting rid of my things than hers. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to only have the things that I need. But like the other day we were talking about how, like the sun will cause us to like if we go out with a mask, you might get a tan with mask lines. So like, we need hats. And she's like, I've got one of these hats. And I'm like, I think I must have like a baseball hat somewhere. And she's like, if you have a hat, it's in your drawer of accessories. That's the only place that you could have hats now. And I'm like, no, I used to have like hats in bags and like boxes, like all over I used to not know where any of my stuff. She's like, all of your hats, if you have a hat, they're in that drawer now. So I'm like, I don't need to hide anything from anyone in my place. Everything is hidden from me in my own place.
That's a good way to prevent, like, it's a way for her to make sure you never break up with her, because if you do, you'll never find your stuff.
You know what?
Jim?
You know what? I want to show you something. What happened? Did we lose? Okay.
You're great.
I'm going to show you something that's really cool. I'm okay?
You're great.
This is cool. I don't know if you can, let me see if I can turn this around. Yeah. This is a poster on my kitchen wall of this event that I did at Caroline's called Comedy Cares, which was a benefit for Broadway Cares. And this is Larry Amorose and Bob Smith and John Panette. Speaking of John Panette, there he is. And Judy Gold and Daryl Hammond.
Wow.
And that was me. I was the host of this. So that was cool. So that's my only. Bob Smith died. Bob Smith, do you know who he was, Mike?
Oh yeah, first openly gay performer on the Tonight Show,
and to have an HBO special, yeah.
And
and so Bob died a long, horrible death of Lou Gehrig's disease. But this is my only comedy thing here. But I thought you'd like to see that.
That's something. Can I tell you? Yeah. I just learned those things about Bob Smith earlier this week when I had Judy Gold on my podcast. And
oh, really?
Yeah. She's got a new book coming out, and so I did her podcast a few weeks ago, and she just did and was telling me about her starting out and Bob and how how influential he was, how momentous it was for a gay person to be achieving anything.
Also, yeah. Well, see, that's interesting because Judy Gold and I, I'm refreshing my cocktail. Excuse me.
Sure.
Judy Gold. Why not? Who gives a shit? Judy Gold and I started doing comedy the exact same day.
Wow.
In April of 1986, we went to the same open mic, which was at a combination cabaret and Thai restaurant around the corner from Port Authority bus terminal called the Lotus Room, which is no longer there, right?
Did you guys hit it off immediately?
Yeah, totally. We got each other, you know what I mean? We totally understood each other. And and then eventually, I was at Comedy U on Grand Street, which is of course no longer there. And that's where I met Bob Smith. And when he did, I was not out on stage at the time. I didn't have the balls, but he did. And he said his joke, the way he came out on stage, because that's something that straight people don't understand, is that when a performer is gay, we have to come out to the audience every single time. We have to figure out a way to let them know, and it has to be usually in a good joke, so. But Bob's way he came out was, he said, my carefully worded announcement was at Thanksgiving when I said to my mother, "Mom, would you please pass the gravy to a homosexual?" And then she passed it to my father. But Bob was a really talented writer. As a stand-up, he had his moments where he was very, very dry. You know what I mean? So sometimes the audience was with him and sometimes they weren't. But as a writer, I thought he was brilliant. He was just brilliant.
That's interesting that I was sorry to cut you off. That's interesting what you say about as a gay performer having to come out to the audience on stage every night, because Harrison and I have to do the opposite. We have to be like, no, we're straight.
Well, we have a different coming out because we have to be like, also I do magic, and you have to be like, also I do juggling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the way I do it these days is because I perform mainly, 90%, 95% of my audiences are straight. I mean, I do gay events, 3 or 4 times a year, but that's it. But 95% of the time, my audiences are like Vegas and Atlantic City and that kind of crowd. And the way that I come out to them is I say, for those of you who are old enough will remember that the whole marriage equality issue had the same issue and the same trajectory that interracial marriage did back in the 60s. A lot of people didn't want that. I mean, my mother said to me, "Don't you marry a black girl." And I said, "Newsflash, I'm not going to marry a girl." And so that's the joke. And so that lets them know. And so then I talk about, my husband, who I've been with for 32 fucking years. Jesus
wow,
Christ.
good for you.
Christ. Yeah, it's fucking 32 years.
Is he in entertainment at all? Art or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
He's in music publishing and licensing. Yeah, he's in the music industry. And so he's working from home and putting a roof over our heads while I'm unemployed.
Do you think he's going to be more remote in the future? Do you think this is going to be a shift?
Do I think what?
Do you think he's going to go back to the office when things resume, or do you think he might be more remote from now on?
He's supposed to go back 1st of October. That's the this is all, nobody knows. I mean, this is all fucking, I was reading today in the New York Times, cases may be 13 times what they, it's like, it's like nobody fucking knows anything.
Right.
Nobody. Anthony Fauci doesn't know anything,
Well, that's some good journalism. Like, if we don't know, then we can definitely say maybe, and then whatever number we like. It's like, maybe it's, yeah.
Well, what's interesting? One of my favorite books about show business is a book about screenwriting by William Goldman, who wrote All the President's Men and Marathon Man and
Princess
Butch
Bride.
Cassidy.
Yeah,
and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And his book is called Adventures in the Screen Trade. And in the first page, he said, the one thing you have to remember about Hollywood is nobody knows anything. Let me repeat that. Nobody has the slightest clue what's going to be a success. Nobody knows anything. So we just have to wait and see what happens, that's the one true thing that Trump says all the time. We'll see what happens. That's the one true thing that he says, because we don't know, and he doesn't know. Nobody knows. We don't know when we're going to be able to go back to work. We do know, I will say this, we do know that we're going to be the last thing that happens. Live entertainment is going to be the last thing that happens.
I think the last thing that happens is Roseanne remembering your performance, but right above will be us performing stand-up again.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Jim, would you go do a club somewhere, Jim? If a club was going to be like social distance and stuff, would you hit the road?
Yeah, sure.
How about you, Myq?
At a certain point, like right now, I've been asked to do some things, and it was like, I think I got asked to do a show in June, and I was like, I don't know, I want to learn more. I want to err on the side of not bringing home a virus that would greater impact my girlfriend who has asthma, and her lungs. So
right.
I'd rather, in a year, look back and be like, oh, I guess I could have gone out and performed a couple months sooner than I did. As opposed to, I guess I could have not murdered my girlfriend,
Yeah.
The problem is that the symptoms of this disease go from nothing to death. So I've been really good. We've had one couple over for dinner in the last 2 months. I went and had drinks with some friends that I've known for years tonight. But you know, I'm being very careful. I mean, because this too shall pass, and I'm using this time as just a whole different time, you know, to just chill out. And I'm reading a lot. I'm reading the biographies of Joni Mitchell, who was my favorite, you know, and Andrew Lloyd Webber and Woody Allen. I would highly recommend as a comedian that you get Woody Allen's recently released autobiography, Apropos of Nothing, because the guy, every single sentence is a laugh line. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You read it and you go, this is like the greatest comedy writer of our lives, Woody Allen, because and he's 84 and he's still writing. I mean, the guy gets, and he talks about in the book about how he learned to write. You know, he started off when he was in his early 20s. You know, he wrote for this summer camp up in the Poconos where they did a show every week. And when he was in his early 20s, Bob Hope hired him to write some one-liners because he'd been sending in all these jokes to the columnists in the New York papers, you know. And it's quite, as a comedian, it's quite amazing because the guy, Woody Allen, has had a discipline of writing for 60 years because, I mean, he's made 51 movies that he wrote and directed. 51 fucking movies. I mean, fuck. Not all of them have been good, but some of them have been great.
That's what matters, is the number, not the quality.
Well, no, but I mean, well, he said it himself in a documentary about him on PBS. He said, I go for the quantity theory, because I figure that if I just keep making movies, maybe one of them will be. And then when he was 77 years old, he had his biggest box office hit, which was Midnight in Paris. And I mean, I can't fathom this career. You know what I mean? I feel like I have done nothing.
Can I tell you a thing about that quantity and quality is when I was 2012, 13, I was like getting ready to record an hour special, and I had recorded like a set audio at a club that was like what the production company was like, oh yeah, this is good, we will shoot this special. And I had I think I had like an hour and 20 minutes recorded on audio, and I was like, I could either take like the best of this and just do it as an hour, or I have like more material. I could have like a totally separate like 45-minute album and then a separate 1 hour special that's all different. But I was like, I was talking to a buddy, and I'm like, should I try to just do one thing that's the best of all the stuff that I could do? Or should I try to do two things that I think are both good because they're both full of jokes that I like and care about? And my friend told me a thing that Michel Gondry, the writer-director, I think, had said, that I think, I can't find this quote anywhere, but so I'm paraphrasing maybe, my friend saying, he said, quality fades, quantity doesn't. That like, if you only do one really great thing a long time ago, like people like might not think about it, and maybe they will, but if you do enough, I mean, the Woody Allen, he said it the same way. Like there's another thing called like rapid prototyping, that if you're making pottery, there was a class that was divided into two, and that one class was like, make the best pot you can for the whole time. And the other class the other half was told, make the most pots you can in the time. And the class that made the most pots, they made pots eventually that were consistently better than the one pot that they were trying to make one perfect pot. So make more things and you eventually will be better at making good things, was the idea.
Well, I think that's a perfect button for this episode, because we're going to keep making these episodes every day until we get it right. I think we're getting pretty close. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm going to go around the horn, and when I call on you, just promote your social media, anything that you'd like to plug for the audience that is watching right now. So Marcus, where should we follow you, and what should we be looking for?
Yeah, I just posted some on Instagram, some clips from some stand-up from last week. So you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. I'm going to be playing shows in North Dakota from August 1st to August 17th, 9 shows a week. So if you're in Medora, North Dakota, I'll be taking the word.
In the unlikely event that you're in Medora, North Dakota.
I'm taking the work, man. I need to eat.
Myq Kaplan, tell us where to find you.
Sure. Myq Kaplan, spelled MyQ Kaplan, is all of my social media and web stuff. My podcast is called Broccoli and Ice Cream. I actually just started a new podcast called The Faucet, where I just talk, because it's fun to talk to other people, but it's also fun to just talk. And my newest album, and all my albums are available where albums are. The newest one is called AKA, and you can download it or stream it. You're watching this on the internet, you can probably find my album called AKA, and if anyone knows Roseanne, please send her this link.
Yeah. And David, where can we get your book and where can we follow you?
My social media is at Comic Jim David on Twitter and Instagram. And I have 5 albums on iTunes. The latest one the 4 albums, which are my solo, are Eat Here and Get Gas, Live from Jimville, Notorious FAG, and Hard to Swallow. Those are my 4 albums. And I just had one come out a month ago called Pride Parade of Stand Up. We recorded it at the Village Underground. And it was me and Jessica Curson and Judy Gold and like 12 other comics. And it's really hilarious. I just listened to it and it's quite filthy. But you can download Pride Parade of Stand Up Volume 1. So that threatens that there will be a Volume 2.
Yes.
They have actually threatened that there's a Volume 2. So that's it.
I propose the next one you call Volume 3 just to really fuck with people. I'll always try to find that Volume 2 and it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
If you want to
Harrison,
follow
where can people find you? Where can people find you, Harrison?
Yeah, they can follow me at Harrison Comedy on Instagram and Twitter. I have a show every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. called Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. I interview magicians and entertainers. Every Thursday, Scam Online, which is a virtual magic show. You can watch all those on youtube.com/Harrison Greenbaum. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching at home, thank you so much. We're here all the time. Comedy Cellar Nightly at 8:30 p.m. We'll see you real soon. Thank you. Good night. And